Is comfort killing you? Of course, comfort feels comfortable, but when does comfort become hazardous, even deadly to a man's identity and purpose? That's what Rob Stout is talking about today, along with Pastor Pressler of Trinity Church in Edwards, Colorado, about an hour west of Denver, deep in the beautiful Rocky Mountains. Welcome to The Next Stage, a podcast that helps you live a life of purpose, born out of your identity as a man created in God's image. The show is available in both video and audio formats like Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, and more. For more information about Rob Stout or the Next Stage team, visit sherpaunlimited.com/podcast. For any resources mentioned in today's program, check out the show notes which are embedded in this episode. Also, please take a moment to give this podcast a 5-star rating, a like and a share to your friends on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. The Next Stage podcast for men is recorded in Erie, Colorado, and produced by Christopher Mann at resermon.com. Whether you are at the gym, on a flight, driving to an appointment, or just chilling out, this podcast is a resource to help men get to the next level. Welcome to The Next Stage.
Does your sermon only get one squeeze? There's probably more juice in that sermon. ReSermon repurposes sermon content for optimal ministry impact. Learn more at resermon.com or email hello@resermon.com.
Men, welcome to the Next Stage podcast. I'm so excited to have you today. We're talking and centering everything we do on this podcast to help you as a man live a life of purpose, born out of a deep sense of your identity as a man created in God's image. And our guest today is Pastor Pressler. He's a pastor in Edwards, Colorado. Those of you who don't know where that is, it is in God's country, right between Vail, Beaver Creek, right in that area. And that means the mountains. For those of you who are in Uganda, have never seen snow. That's a beautiful place to be. And I'm excited to have Kurt today. We are diving into a topic that he is really passionate about and that I'm really passionate about. So we're just going to cook on this, and hopefully it's really impactful for your life. And Kurt, the question I've got for you today as we get started, and we're just going to jump right in here, is this. From your leadership position, and we'll get into your background in a second, but from your position as a leader, as a pastor in a community, where do you see passivity showing up in men's lives today?
Yeah, well, first of all, great to be with you. Thank you for the invitation. I think the passivity that I see, and it's been interesting being here in the Valley, is it is God's country. It proclaims the greatness of God, and it is a total escape, I think, for a lot of people that get here. And that the goodness that God has given us, that we have been able to really twist into a way to get as far away from God, as far away from what he might have in our life. And for those in the Valley, it's so easy. I mean, there is something to do all the time. And so I think that you've got that. And so that's specific to the Valley. I think generally, it's busyness, it's pace. Yeah. And it's funny that pace and passivity go so well together. I think pace is actually escape as well. And so those are two things that I'm really wrestling with, with the guys in my church and really with just trying to engage this Valley because I can get away from anything that I want up here. And it's a fascinating place, and it is so deceptive in terms of its ability to let you escape.
Yeah. And if you ever want to, men who are listening who don't know Vail and that area, look up the Vail Valley, look up Vail, Colorado, and you'll see the vastness of what God has created up there, the rivers. I mean, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And yet it can creep into this area of passivity. Why do you think that comfort feels safer than purpose?
There's nothing at risk. I mean, comfort doesn't ask anything of me. Comfort lowers the bar to such an extent that there's no risk of failure. There's no risk of letting anybody down. And comfort is a way for us to. It's the opposite of purpose because it doesn't ask anything of us. And if it's not asking anything of us, then we get to set the rules. We get to define what success is. And I think the challenge that comes with comfort is that, we need good rhythms and pace in life, but boy, it is just starting to own us, because it's an escape for any kind of pressure. And I think for a lot of us that talk about purpose and this idea of, man, God's created you for something in your life, that does this with the bar of your life. And it eliminates options. It eliminates what's on the margin. And when I have the choice between comfort that is escape and not asking anything of me in this purpose, man, our hearts are going to often be drawn to that comfort because it's easier and it does not risk anything.
Yeah. How do you see that displayed? Seeking a life of comfort versus purpose, kind of run down like the menu of guys' lives. How do you see that played out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure the list you've talked about this list many times. Yeah. Technology. I mean, it is, I just to see guys checking out with technology is so primary. I think hookup culture is another one, and it's just exploitation of other people. Comfort up here. There is an escapism that I was just talking about, in the Valley. It is so easy to isolate up here. And I think that's part of comfort. It's also part of what is killing men, is because we lack relationships. But again, if I have no sense of purpose, part of that is having no one in my life who's going to call me to that purpose. And even though that is, it's deadly to us, this loneliness epidemic, there is comfort in that, and no one's asking anything of me. And so those are some really big ones. And you can get into substances, those kinds of things. And I came from Texas, and pot wasn't legal down there, and I came to a state where it is, and boy, you smell it on the ski lift and you're like, I hope that guy's not going to ski next to me, because his reaction time isn't very good.
It's not very good. You're right. Yeah, absolutely. So take us back a bit. You mentioned Texas, and we won't hold that against you. Hopefully you learned how to drive and took a defensive driving course. But anyway,
yes,
we won't hold Texas against you. In fact, I love my Texas guys. Let me ask you this question. So getting into this area of this being a passion area in your life.
Yeah.
Talking about purpose, your whole church, identity is based on that and what you're trying to do. But what's your personal story in this journey? How did you arrive at kind of an aha moment of, this is what my heart beats for?
Yeah, I mean, really, it goes back to my childhood. We'll get heavy here for a second. I love my father. I've got a ton of respect for my dad. He did the very best that he could. But his dad was a raging alcoholic, got a diagnosis of cirrhosis. And rather than letting that take his life, he took his own life. And, for my dad, it was kind of in my mid-20s where I just was able to recognize my dad played defense for his entire life. And it just was a sense of anything bad that may happen, I'm going to put up boundaries. I am going to prevent any of that from penetrating our lives. And, I think there was some genuine being a protector as a father and a husband. But when I got to my mid-20s, I had a real compassion for my dad, because I just recognized he had no aspiration. He had no excitement, no vision for what his life could be. It just seemed like day in and day out, I am going to make sure that nothing bad gets in. And you kind of have a greater sense of your father when you get into your 20s. And then from there, I started, I got married, and we started having kids, and we started living in community and doing life with other couples. And I remember a day just being with the guys we were in a small group, and I just remember a guy in our group, and I have never seen someone so lifeless. And I uttered this phrase, and it's become a phrase I've used a lot. I said, you look like the goal of every day is for you to finish without too many people angry with you. And he just was getting, kicked in every aspect of his life. And what was he doing because of that? He was starting to check out and check out and check out. And, that was around the time where men's ministry, we were kind of shaking our fist at men and saying, you better step up. Right. And there was there was something good about that, but it was also a ton of shaming. And the
Right.
rest of the world was already tearing down guys.
Right.
And
The beatings will continue until morale improves. You're like,
exactly.
what? I didn't come here. I need help, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And so God was good in that moment to really give me a growing compassion for guys in particular.
Mm.
And I was asking the question in my own life. So I had a 17-year business career,
Yeah.
and just started getting more involved in our church. I became an elder in our church. I was starting ministry, and I'd go do church stuff, and I wouldn't want to leave. And then I'd go back to the business world, and I was faithful in what I needed to do. But man, my heart was dying over here, and it was coming to life over here. And by the grace of God, I was 38 years old, and he said, it is time for you to jump into vocational ministry. And
Wow.
the utter gift that was to me, I'm 51 now, and it just, the last 13 years have been so different than the previous 38. And the joy that I have in being able to know and live into the purpose that God has for my life, and the impact that I get to make in other people's lives. That is the biggest part of my story. And so what happened there was, oh man, I actually get to step into this vocational ministry and help guys discover and begin to live out what it is that God has for their life. And and God's been good to give me 3 sons, and we I don't know if you want to get into this, but part of defining purpose is to really be able to put words to it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a father and a husband, very clear to me that one of my primary purposes is to change the trajectory of my family tree.
Yeah.
And just, it's redemption. It's gospel redemption in a family that was not devoted to the Lord. And I haven't done anything perfectly, obviously. But by God's grace, that is what God has called me to. And he's given me 3 boys to continue that work. Mm. And I've been real candid with them over the years, and just to say, hey guys, this is what has come before us. And we're not going to let it continue. We are going to do something different. And I'm going to do it better than my dad. You guys are going to do it better than me. Your sons will do it better than you. And eventually we'll be a perfect family. I don't know how you.
Oh, yeah. Ta-da. Yeah. And the thing that you have to control in that is your daily decisions. And that does not mean being a pastor. It means being the man God's called you to be. And I love that. But the man you described in your small group, it's like our culture doesn't openly it does openly attack men, but the idea of purpose and living with significance and living in identity and living for impact has a slow creep to it. And the thing I find a lot is that men don't necessarily live openly reckless lives. Some do. And that's where we step in and help them pick up the pieces and put it back together. But they're responsible, hardworking, good men, but they get stuck, and I'm sure you see this, especially in an affluent community where you live with so much adventure around and a fierce independence in Colorado culture. How do you see men get stuck and they choose kind of comfort, passivity over living with what you said the other day, purposeful impact?
Yeah. I want to say one thing, something you said earlier. One of the reasons I really don't like my story is because it ends with me in vocational ministry. And so I'm constantly having to tell guys, look, pastoral ministry is what God had for me. Most of you are not going, because we talk about calling, and so many people go, oh, you have to either be in vocational ministry or it doesn't really count. And so I always want to make that point of like, that was God's path for me and what he had for me.
100%.
In terms of comfort, and there is a fierce independence. It's been fascinating to experience that coming from Texas, the Lone Star State.
Yep.
And by the way, most of the people in Beaver Creek are Texans. So when I go there, I feel like I'm home. And I married a Texan. So
they're the rich Texans, man. I mean, come on now. They're all bougie and you're like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah. I will tell you a story about what I am learning up here. And I think it's it's a perfect picture for what is going on. So in scripture, a generation is 40 years. And there is a chapel in Beaver Creek, and next year is its 40th anniversary.
Hmm.
And so we have our main campus in Edwards. We're one of the churches in the Beaver Creek Chapel. But when I talk to the people who have been here since the beginning and worked with President Ford, they all talk about this mission that they were on to build this community and to build relationships within it. And they have such an affection for one another, such an affection for the place. And then I hear them lament the next generation. Because the first generation was here to build and make something happen. The next generation is here to escape. And I think that is a picture of what we're talking about here, that the thing that has already been established and built, that people gave blood, sweat, tears, and a whole lot of money to, that generation's passing away. And this new generation is just happy to be able to show up and to get away from whatever they have in their lives that they want to escape from. And so, and as I've been learning this story, it's been fascinating to step in and to be able to say, well, then we need to be calling people to be the next generation of Beaver Creek. And so I have a role to play in that. But I think it's a perfect picture of what is going on generally, is that either the things that have already been built, people are just kind of coasting on, and it requires nothing of them. The independence that we talked about up here is, it's got a redemptive side, and it's got, I think, a sick side, a sinful side, because it just, again, is getting away from whatever responsibilities, whatever things that God might have for them in their lives. And when you talk to someone who doesn't have a concept of, oh, you mean I have something actually to do here? Mm-hmm. Well, they go one of two ways. They're very dismissive of it, or they lean in. And it's one of the things that why I'm talking about it so much with our church, but also I think it's one of the primary ministries that we have here in the Valley, because I want to tap people on the shoulders and say, this is awesome, but this is not it. There is so much more for you, and it can be up here, and it can include all the fun things, but you've got something that God has for you, and I really want to encourage you to step into that.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's Rob Stout with the Next Stage Podcast and Sherpa Unlimited. People ask me, what do you love to do most in life? Here it is. I love to talk to men's groups, like retreats, conferences, men's breakfast, I don't care, tailgate, night at the cigar bar, night around a campfire. I don't care what it is. I love to talk to men and to hear what's going on in their life, but to impart wisdom and to talk about living as a man of purpose, born out of identity of who God has made you to be. Man, if that's something that you're like, let's go, just simply email me. The Next Stage at SherpaUnlimited.com, and let's set up a time to come talk to your men's group, your breakfast. We could do it online. I don't care where you are in the world. Email us. Let's figure it out. The Next Stage at SherpaUnlimited.com. But let's just keep moving into this idea of passivity. How do you see men? How does comfort lead to passivity in marriage, in leadership, in being a dad, at work, spiritually, on their faith journey?
Yeah, I mean, that is, I think the last one you said is the most important. And I am so eager to find guys who are, say, I make the Lord primary, and then the rest of my day follows that. And I think we have gotten away, and I think this is an issue with the evangelical church, that we've put such a primary focus on Sundays that we forget about just our daily walk with the Lord. And we are seeing a move. I think it's been one of the encouraging things, just as, our youngest generation of men are kind of stepping back into faith. They're going into some faith traditions that have these practices. I'm off topic of your question, but I think what you see, I think guys who are showing up at home and making their presence as least felt as possible. Mm-hmm. And, I think we think, he's a dysfunctional dad or dysfunctional husband. And we think of the overly aggressive And that's what first comes to mind. But I think for most guys, they are coming into the home. If they are pursuing passivity, they're coming into the home and trying to make as little of a dent as possible, almost trying to go unnoticed. And I think part of what we've seen, I would say particularly over the last 20 years, is the pace I talked about earlier. I think dads are often eager to get their kids active. If my kid's constantly in sports and I don't have time to disciple my child, am I free of that? I think that has really had a negative impact on the family. And yeah, I think in the church, there is a posture of, I hope someone else does it.
Yeah.
But I think the church has done that, to itself, because the message that we have been sending for so long, and this attractional, 40 years that we've had, is come and sit and be entertained. And guys don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and the next generation, and you hit on it, I've seen this over and over again. The attendance in Episcopal churches, in Catholic churches, they're moving. Gen Z has right now the highest percentage of church attendance that we've ever seen.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's awesome. Why? Because people have been entertained, they've been spoon-fed, or they've had nothing, right? So it's also the most secularized, un-Christian generation in American history. And both of those, the ones who have just been kind of fed the big show, they've seen through it, man. They've seen the clowns, they've seen the monkeys. They're like, no, I want something real. The other side of it is people who are going, man, I really have a hope inside of me, and it's aching to be filled.
Right.
And that's a cool thing.
That is a really cool thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just seeing that in my boys, seeing that in their friends.
Yep.
I think also we're at a fascinating place culturally, because all of the ideologies and the worldviews of the world that promised salvation in whatever way it said salvation was, they are all failing. Yeah. And isn't it amazing to see the gospel of Jesus Christ continue to show it's the only way, right? And so I think, these institutions that have been promising, ultimate fulfillment, they're falling flat on their face. And so what's happening is, I think kids are looking around, young adults in particular, and saying, well, that's been around for a couple thousand years. It still seems to have some life in it. And, it's going to tell me not only about what's going to happen in eternity, but it's going to tell me that I have a unique identity, that I have a unique purpose. And it's going to, I'm going to be able to stand on people that have gone on the shoulders of people who have gone ahead of me for century after century after century. So there must be something true and good and right in this thing called the church and the gospel. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And so our church has, it's a little bit older, and I want to make sure that we are really calling our seniors to finish well. And, because so many churches go, we want to focus on young adults. I'm like, no, you guys focus on young adults, because you have a life with Jesus that you get to offer to them and call them into the rest of this that we have been, talking about as a church. And then I think we've got that message in the public with people who don't know Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think the center of this, that I know Kirk's heart beats for, mine does too, and you know that, is that you were not made for comfort. You were not made to be passive. In fact, go back to Genesis 1:28. Check these verbs out. Check out what you were made for, okay? God says, original mandate, original do this that he told human beings, men and women, but be fruitful, increase in number. He said, fill the earth, subdue it, rule over it. Like, there is no room for passivity in that. There is a mission, and these guys were their job, Adam and Eve, but Adam, okay, our number one first passive guy. Go fill the earth, subdue it, rule over it, manage, form creation. Like that is not a passive thing. And Men, you were not made to sit on your butt. You were not made to sit on your butt at home, at work, with your family, in your community, in your church. You weren't made for online gambling, online porn, doom scrolling, endless adventure, as great as it is, or sending pictures of yourself in the easy life, or collecting things. You were made for impact and you were made for purpose. And the question I want to ask you today to think about is this: what are you doing today that's not about yourself? It's not about the endless absorption of just self-absorption type of a life, not your status, not your money, not your job. But what are you doing today that lasts for longer than when they put your body in the ground or put you in an urn and set you on the mantle and they forget who you are 80 years later? Like, what are you doing today? Gosh, I love that thought. And one of the themes that drives your teaching, Kurt, is to glorify God and serve others by joyfully activating people into taking new ground spiritually and in their daily lives. Why can't men have impact if they don't understand who they are, if they don't understand their identity?
Oh, wow. That's a great question.
How about that tee up for you?
Yeah, that's a great tee up. Well, if they don't understand their identity, then they don't understand that they're created in the image of God. They don't understand that God has made them to, you just referred to Genesis 1, right? To fill the earth with his glory. And that's not just to say the name of God. It is to do redemptive works of the gospel for the sake of pointing back to God. And we've talked about this, right? There's the idea that here's the gospel, believe in Jesus, go to heaven. And absolutely true. And what we forget is the gospel tells us who we are. The gospel tells us what our life is to be about. And if we are untethered from the identity that God has for us, we have no moorings in Christ. We have no sense that we worship and follow one who came with his own purpose and his own calling, the redemption of mankind, right? Mm-hmm. And if I don't understand my identity from God, I've got to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
And none of us are equipped to do that. Mm-hmm. And when the pressure of, hey, Rob, you need to figure out who you are, you get to define that, that is a pressure that none of us can bear. And that is what will lead to people checking out and just pursuing comfort. Because I don't want to figure that out. And what if I get it wrong? Or what if I come up with something that I am incapable of? I mean, we scare ourselves into that. We talk ourselves out of it and we go, you know what, I'm just going to go over here. And I'm going to go to a life of ease. I'm going to go to a life that doesn't ask anything of me. I'm going to go to a life that doesn't even care who I am, because it eliminates what we are supposed to do out of our identity. But man, if we get that identity from the Lord, then it's him who's defining us. It's him who's empowering us. It's him who's giving his wisdom to us. And we don't have to do it on our own. And it is Christ living in us that allows us to do that because of who he made us to be and who he saved us to be.
Yeah. And the famous verse that is quoted often in churches: by grace, you've been saved through faith, and that's not of yourself. It's a gift of God, not of works that anybody should boast.
Amen.
And I did not know there was a next verse.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's exactly.
And what was that?
Yes, for we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works that he prepared beforehand that we should walk in them, Ephesians 2:10.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that is.
You listeners, we didn't tee that up. That's just a little Bible quiz I just gave Kurt, so he passed. But, I do think that losing sight of that and not being able to apply that real concretely in our lives, that explains some of the restlessness. Like, we achieve, we do recreation, we do all kinds of things, but our life is not aligned with purposeful impact. And so we drift, right? Yeah. But we were created for good things. Well, what are those good things?
Right.
They're right in front of you. Mm-hmm. We do not have a lack of good things to do, to plug into, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that Ephesians passage, because we get 1 through 9, if 1 through 9, and we go, We were dead, but God, now we're alive by grace through faith. And we stop at verse 9, and hallelujah, eternity is secure. And we forget to get to verse 10, that eternity starts the moment we put our faith in Jesus Christ. That new life, that new purpose starts. And what happens is, if we don't live into Ephesians 2:10, we do have to then, well, what is success for me? What is the purpose of my life? I'm going to go try this. I don't know who's to tell me that this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Okay, maybe I'll go try this. So I'm getting some attention for that, having a little success. Oh, that must be the thing. And we put it all again on our shoulders. But Ephesians 2:10, God was thinking of us and dreaming of us in eternity past. And I just love the calling passages. You think of Jeremiah, that God had consecrated him before he was in his mother's womb. You think of Isaiah, who was set apart. You think of John the Baptist, who is set apart. And this, there is witness after witness after witness in Scripture that God had a purpose and plan for people's lives before they were ever even conceived, or as they were conceived, but it's all beforehand. And so if God has something for us, and I believe he does, and I believe it is knowable, then I don't have to guess. I don't have to wake up every day and say, maybe this is what my life is to be about today, and I hope someone likes it, and I hope maybe I can make somebody happy because of it. And if you live like that, you're eventually just you're going to tire yourself out, and that's where the comfort's going to come, right? That's where the escape's going to come, because just the pressure of trying to figure that out day after day after day. And God does not want that for us. God never wanted that for us. God created Adam and Eve with an explicit purpose, and he has been doing that with humanity ever since.
Yeah. And there are a couple of things we cannot blow by. Number one, what you just summed up of the work God does in someone's life. Like, there are men who have never heard that. And they've never heard it in a way that lands on them, like their life matters. They were created in the image of God, no matter how much they messed up. And God wants to take that and make that new and bring purpose and impact out of that person's life.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
That. And you phrase that. I love the way you phrase that, by taking new ground and awakening the Vale Valley where you live and work. For you, what does that look like as you're helping guys land that a little bit out of the ethereal? We love theology. You and I could talk theology and dig forever, but most guys, like Joe Sixpack out there, does not necessarily, or guy on the treadmill or guy on the cubicle, they're not necessarily driven that way. But what does that mean for them? What are some steps that a man can take to help grab onto that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And, one of the things that I always talk about is, and you've heard, the church is not a building, and we know that, but I try to talk to guys that church as a mission, as a movement, because, guys come to life when they go, oh, church isn't just about showing up and listening to really handsome guys from the front. Church is about actually, by the grace of God, expanding the kingdom of God. And so, one of the things that I try to talk about with guys, and this is dicey, because this is going to sound like what the world is saying, but I ask the question, what stirs your heart? And, not question. What's in your heart, right? Because we got the world telling us today that, hey,
follow your heart. Exactly. Well, I've done that several times.
Yes. Yeah.
Not good.
So the question is, what stirs your heart, and what starts to weigh on you? And, one of the questions is, what gets you up in the morning? What keeps you up at night? And I think this is different than, just follow your heart and be the person that you're going to be. It is the idea that if I am pursuing the Lord in relationship, I am seeing things the way that he sees them. I am feeling and experiencing things the way that he is feeling and experiencing things. And now I've got kingdom goggles on. I have redemption goggles on, and I am starting to see the world in its brokenness. And I always love it. I just remember talking to a guy, this is back in Texas. God bless Texas. And we were talking about this idea of purpose, and he said, I don't know, Kurt. And we just started having this dialogue back and forth. And within a year, he was running for office. His marriage had been restored. He, he was ready to cut ties with things that were part of his life beforehand. And it's because he started to get clarity of, man, this is really where God is drawing my heart. And I'm in a Nehemiah series. I think one of the most encouraging verses in all of the Old Testament is in chapter 2. He's about to go, look at the wall and what we up against here. And he says, I have yet to tell the people that are here what God has put in my heart to do.
Yeah.
And when we talk about heart, it's vulnerability. Not every guy wants to go there. But when we talk about that is the place where God speaks to us, where God draws us to himself, where God puts a burden in our life to say, this is what I want you to be about, to bring the redemption of the gospel into the world, man, lives change. And so I can have that conversation with someone who's been a believer for 40 years, and I can have that conversation with someone who's not a follower of Jesus. Yeah. And I know you've got guys on here who aren't followers of Jesus. And I think one of the great questions that you guys might be encouraged to answer is, well, then what the heck is this all about? Right. Is this about entertainment? Is this about just, getting mine over the next 80 years? Or is it possible that you were created on purpose for a purpose? And if that's the case, man, who's the one who did that? And let's have a conversation about that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. And I pound the drum all the time on this. I think the church has done an amazing disservice to men globally. Here's why. Because really, if the objective observer were to stand back and say, what do they want from me?
Yeah.
Number one, get there. Okay. Be there. Number two, give money, which fuels the mission. I get that. Number three, just be good.
Yeah.
So get there, give, and be good. The 3 G's. Men, God did not create you just to be good. And that is revolutionary. What if God created you to be a man of impact, to not live in passivity, to not just even live in good behavior, although that's a byproduct of it, but taking new ground and being a man of impact right where he put you, what's right in front of you to do. And I love that vibe. But I mean, frankly, I grew up and I was like, what? These guys are nice men. They're harmless. But if I need like defended, protected, rescued, I'm not going to these dudes. Because I think the church served them a very wrong version of Jesus, number one, but also of what the whole thing looks like. I love this conversation. And the truth is, man, that comfort is killing you. Maybe not overnight. Maybe it's a little more insidious. Maybe it's just a slow death. My encouragement to you is to jump in and really start to uncover, maybe pull some of that husk around your heart away and dig into what does it mean to be a man of purposeful impact. And Kurt, I want to ask you, we do this on every episode. It's the one thing. It's like the thing that you can do like tomorrow, SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time sensitive. What is one thing that a guy can do to help restore this area of his life? Like in the next 24 to 48 hours, what's one thing he can do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there is you can say this in the next 24 hours. I want things to be different. And that is a testimony and proclamation of surrender. And we know that surrender is a path. It is not something that we get just once. And surrender is a big word, right? I mean, we're not necessarily like that, but just the idea. If I could say out loud to the Lord, I want my life to be different, and really what you're saying to the Lord is, I want what you want. If you keep praying that, You can pray that every day, and eventually I think the Lord's going to draw your heart. And I could come up with another 30 things, but that was the first thing that jumped in my mind.
So after that, what's the next actionable step? And maybe it comes out of your story, because God took you, and there was nothing wrong with your career. It was good. You were serving, you were loving your family, you were doing your best, you're growing, all that. But he took you in a different direction. And maybe it was the thing right in front of you. Maybe it was a big one for you. I mean, you went back to graduate school, and not an easy degree program. I've got that degree too. It was hard. But
Yes.
after that surrender point, what next? What can a man do that he goes,
Yeah.
I did that and it made a difference?
Well, yeah. In my story, the reason I got to the place I got to is that I had other people in my life who were speaking into my life. And guys, we cannot do this alone. And, is that a step of impact to invite someone into this question of why the heck am I here? No, it's not going to change things right away, but we were never meant to do this alone. And so imagine the courage that it would take to look at someone that knows you and say, hey, I have decided I want to change the trajectory of my life, if it's this big or if it's this big. And I would love for you to be a part of that. Will you join me on this journey? And I mean, what a gift that God has given us. I mean, we forget sometimes the church is a people that we belong to one another, Romans 12:5, and we belong to one another because God has given us to one another, because whatever he has for us, we are not going to get there by ourselves.
That's great. And it could be as specific as, I need to break the habit of doom scrolling.
Sure.
I need to break now. The most glamorous, celebrated addiction in the world is not porn, although that's right there, online gambling. It is celebrated. It's all over the place.
All over the place.
But what happens when it starts ruining your life? So the surrender piece, but also getting around other men and going, I need some help with this.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean I hand over my responsibility for my life to you and you have to manage me, but it is that I need support in that.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
New Testament is full of the one another commands. And I think guys like to avoid those, and we want being listless because we do. And if we really would ask someone to step into our life with care for us and to help us discern what's next, our lives will change because of that, for sure.
Yeah. Man, I've got a really, really practical tool for you around this. I've kind of developed it. It's very practical, and it helps walk you through a personalized plan and a view of digging into your life in this area. I mean, like, where are you choosing comfort over calling? Where are you being passive, specifically for you? Not me, not Kurt, you. And then how can you take steps? What are you doing that is taking steps to kill you? What can you do next to help take steps of growth? And I want to give that to you. But here's the thing. You cannot be passive in order to get it. Here's the hook. You got to do something. And it's pretty simple. You got to email me the next stage at SherpaUnlimited.com, the next stage at SherpaUnlimited.com. Right now, just do it. Jump on your phone, jump on whatever, shoot me an email. I will be happy to send that to you and to help connect you, to help grow you in specific ways that you want to grow, right? So, Kurt, kind of final words here. What encouragement would you give the men who listen to the next stage, who are listening to this right now while they're on their lunch break, while they're hiking, hopefully fly fishing, whatever they're doing, driving on the treadmill, whatever they're doing, that would help them take the next steps to live lives of impact, driven out of purpose, instead of lives of comfort? What would be your parting thoughts there?
Yeah, my parting thought is there is more, and you don't have to do it on your own. And I say that because, again, I mean, if we are going to call men to this, the default is, oh no, it's on me now. It's not on you. The Lord's got you. The Lord is with you. The Lord is going to make it happen. And something that I just want more people to experience is joy. We haven't talked much about joy. We've talked about impact and purpose. But man, when you are doing the things that God has made you to do, holy cow! And we don't talk enough about joy. It's a fruit of the Spirit. We see it throughout Scripture. Yeah. And so, do you want more joy in your life? I often ask our church, "What is your joy meter reading these days?" Yeah. And I'll be honest, most people go, yeah.
But what is it that comes alive in you? Right?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Men, like we said, you were not made just to be good men. You were created by God to be men of impact. Playing it safe, not the way to go. Taking new ground, doing what makes you come alive, that's the way to live. And I invite you, number one, email me thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com, and I will give you this little tool, and I would love to have you work on it. But Kurt, thank you for taking time out of your very busy week. I appreciate you being with us. And men, until our next episode, may you be a man who lives a life of purpose, born out of a deep sense of his identity, of who he is as a man created in God's image for impact. Have a great week. We'll talk to you again soon. Man, there's a loneliness and isolation epidemic going on in our world today. 50% of men report frequent feelings of loneliness. Another 50% report not having any close friends. And 70% of men report not having a significant relationship or a conversation that goes beyond the surface level in the last week. Life doesn't have to be that way. In fact, Sherpa Unlimited has come along and said, we want to help solve that problem. And I want you to picture your world like this. Picture your world where you have other strong men around you who are heading the same direction you are. Not just yes men in your life or drinking buddies or poker playing buddies or something like that, but men where you had the opportunity to grow, to really foster the kind of life that you want, to grow that internal world that allows you to be the man you need to be at work, at home, in your community. Men who were there to challenge you, but also lift you up when you fall. And we all do. I want you to check out Sherpa Unlimited's opportunity that we have coming up. They're called Ascent Men's Communities. These are bi-weekly groups that meet literally anywhere in the world. You have to invest in these. They're not just free, but it's very affordable. You'll see. Less than the cost of a couple pizzas and certainly less than the cost of your gym membership. Go to sherpaunlimited.com/ascent. We'll see you in one of our Ascent Men's communities very soon.
Thanks for joining us on the Next Stage podcast for men with Rob Stout. The Next Stage helps men live with purpose, born out of identity, as men made in God's image who are shaping this world for good. The Next Stage is a production of Sherpa Unlimited Coaching for Men, based in Denver, Colorado in the United States. Learn more at sherpaunlimited.com/thenextstage or follow Sherpa Unlimited on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. We love feedback. Please send your feedback, questions, or requests for future content to this email, thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com. Again, thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com. The Next Stage distributes episodes every 2 weeks on Wednesday mornings. The Next Stage taps the wisdom of the ancient scriptures. And if you don't have a copy of the Bible, we can help you fix that. First, you can visit any public library and check one out. Or visit an online or local bookstore. Alternatively, just about any Bible-believing church would be happy to give you a Bible for a nominal price, or even free. And while you're there, make a personal introduction to the pastor or his staff, and consider attending services there this Sunday. Finally, you can just download a free Bible app called YouVersion for your smartphone. Whether you have an Apple iPhone, Google Android phone, or something else, go to your phone's app store and search YOU Version and select the YouVersion Bible. Also, you can find a link for the YouVersion Bible app in the show notes of today's podcast. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.